everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Stella Gray here with Freak, my husband. And today we're going to pick up where we left off with the video that we uploaded yesterday on paranormal events, the paranormal timeline. And, we ended up moving out of the house in, well, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, guys, in Florida, okay? We moved out of that house in Florida, and we ended up moving up to the northern part of Alabama, okay? So, just to be closer to family, my mom lived there at the time, this, that, and the other. And, like I said, I was pregnant with my first child, who is now 10 years old. So we moved up there, and, a lot of the paranormal activity that we experienced in the house in Florida subsided for a while until later. And it got pretty bad. And honestly, I can say that I blame some of it on myself because there was a lot of negativity and we were doing a lot of dumb things. Like, we were young and we played, I'm not going to lie, we had played with Ouija boards and this, that, and the other, and we just did dumb things that we shouldn't have been doing. And I'm actually going to pass the mic over to Freak, and he's going to explain some of the things that happened, and then I'll explain some of the things that happened a little bit further.
I don't consider tarot cards to be a bad thing, but I worked at Books A Million at the time, so I had gotten these rune stones, and I thought they were really cool because I love Norse mythology and stuff like that. And I got her some tarot cards, and we got a Ouija board, and we started playing around because we're agnostic. We don't really know what's out there. We don't claim to know all the answers, but it's all this negative energy just kind of surrounded us, and we just kind of added fuel to the fire by playing with shit like that. And whenever we did that, it seemed like it kind of amplified it a little bit, and it just got worse and worse and worse, and it started affecting me in a negative way because I feel like all that negative, dark energy attracts itself to negative energy. And I dealt with, some stuff as a kid. I'm not going to get into that, but some stuff as a kid that, kind of made me resentful and hateful towards the world, and I felt like all that negative energy attached itself to it. It's a parasite is what it is. It attaches itself to it, and it feeds off that negative energy. So it started affecting me more and more. I was always irritable. I was always angry. I always lashed out at everybody. And that partly was because of the shit I dealt with as a kid, but I felt like it just hit me more than anything, And we were having nightmares constantly.
And I'm not meaning to interrupt, but I do need to bring up that I did have a nightmare one night that I'll never forget, and it was that in the nightmare, there was a man and a woman. Okay, the woman had blonde hair and the man had brown hair, and you'll see why that is significant here in a minute. But there was a yellow snake. It was seriously like a cartoony looking snake. It was not, it was animated. And in the nightmare, the snake led me down a path in the woods to safety, basically. And this man and woman approached me in the dream and asked me if I needed a ride because I had my child with me in the dream. And this was after my son was born. So the snake was kind of in the background telling me, no, don't take the ride with these people. And in the dream, I didn't take the ride. I'm not sure what happened at the end of the dream because I woke up. But the very next day, we were walking to rent a movie from Blockbuster, and on the way back, it started to rain.
How old we are.
Yeah, we're up there. But on the way back, it started to rain. So, I think I had Aubrey, that's my son. I had him in the baby arm. And the people, a man and a woman, the woman had blonde hair and the man had brown hair, just like in the dream, pulled up behind a Dick's Sporting Goods, behind the building, which was already like super shady. Like, why would I get in a car with you when you're pulled in behind a building? Obviously, you're trying to hide something. So they stopped their car, they got out of their car, and they said, hey, do you guys need a ride? It's starting to rain. And we said, no, we don't need a ride. But right when they asked me that, it popped in my head what I had dreamed the night before about the man and the woman, and they had the same color hair as these people, asking me if I needed a ride. And one thing I forgot to mention, sorry guys, I'm new to this story time thing, but one thing I forgot to mention is that in the dream they asked me, or no, in the dream, one of my excuses for not taking a ride with these people was that I didn't have a car seat. Because I never put my child in the car without a car seat. And in the dream, they said, oh, well, we have a car seat. The same thing happened with these people in reality. They asked me, or I said the same thing to them, we don't have a car seat, as my excuse for not taking a ride with them. And they said, we have a car seat. And then when we refused the ride with them, they didn't seem very happy about that. They actually looked pretty angry. So we kept walking home. We made it home safely, but like I'm saying, like all of these paranormal events, it's like there's good and there's evil, you know? There's definitely something that's got something or someone that has guided us throughout our lives and throughout my life, trying to keep us safe. But I just wanted to note that. And anything else you needed to say about?
Not about that situation. It's just we've never been very trusting in people because we dealt with a lot as teenagers. Like, we were both teenage runaways. You know, like me sooner than her. Like, I ran away when I was 14 years old. I pretty much had to learn to be a man since I was like a kid. So we were not very trusting of the world in general at all. And you hear all these horror movies on like the ID channel and stuff about people getting abducted. And that was one thing like I was weirded out about. I was like, no, like not. And like
There were also instances. One instance was we had the first little place we got, other than the house we had in Florida, that was clearly haunted, or something was following us, obviously. But we got the first place we got when we moved up to northern Alabama was a little one-bedroom apartment. And I remember, once again, Freak was at work, and I was in the kitchen talking on the phone with Todd. And I don't remember, we were just talking about, you know, catching up on some things, and I heard a loud bang in my closet. And this is a one-bedroom apartment, so the living room, the kitchen, and dining room are really close to the bedroom. And I heard a loud bang. And then next thing you know, my cats, I had 3 little kittens that I rescued, that I was like basically fostering. All of their hair stood up on their backs, all of them, and they all started hissing at something that I couldn't see. But I felt the same presence once again. And I think that it was after that point, I think for some reason, when I was speaking on the phone with Todd, that thing that was at Todd's house found us somehow. I'm not sure, guys. I don't know exactly what happened. I just know what I heard and what I saw my cats doing. And I know I felt that same eerie presence that I felt before. So, I mean, obviously, I was scared. I was ready for a freak to get home. I was freaking out. I mean, that's really scary to go through. And then a couple nights after that, we heard 3 knocks at the door. And this was between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning.
some scary shit in the
Yeah.
middle of the night. Like,
Yeah.
And I had a thing, like, ever since I was, like, a kid, I never really had a bed. Like, well, when like, I was adopted, you know, like, first and foremost. And the people who adopted me were, like, pretty good people, but the man who I was supposed to consider my uncle was an abusive piece of shit. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. And karma's coming back on him, by the way. So, there's that. But, So I've always slept on couches. Like when I ran away, I always slept on my friends' couches. It was like quick plug-in. It's like my friend's house or my best friend's couch. Like good charity. Check them out. They help like abused teens who've run away from home with shelter, food. You know, it's good charity, by the way. But you know, I was so used to sleeping on couches, so sometimes when I would sleep in the bed, like I couldn't sleep, so I'd go and I'd fall asleep on the couch. I'd go to sleep like that.
Well, we heard 3 knocks at the door. And I remember I was asleep. I rolled over and I told Freak, I said, you need to go in there and see who's at the door. Because honestly, I thought it was my mother. Because she was having problems at the time. You know, I'm not going to get into all that, but she was having her own issues at the time. And I thought it was her. I thought it was her knocking on the door because, like I said, I don't know the exact time, but I know it was between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning. And I remember he got up. I saw him go into the kitchen, but I didn't see him go to the front door. Not once did I see him go to the door. And I said, did you check the door? And he was like, yeah, I checked the door. Nobody's there. And I knew he didn't go and check the door. Then Freak went and laid down on the couch, like he was just saying. He went and laid down on the couch. Next thing I know, I heard 3 knocks again. I said, are you going to check the door? He never checked the door. And he just fell asleep on the couch. Well, the next morning...
Well, I was asleep on the couch, like, when you said that. Like, I didn't wake up. That was the thing. Like,
No, you went to the kitchen. I remember exactly what happened. I said, did you check the door? You said, yes, there's nobody there, but you never checked the door. Then you went to the couch.
Okay.
Then you went to the couch, and then the next day you woke up, and what happened in your dream?
Well, that's what I was getting at, was I was saying that, you know, in my head, I left the bedroom and I checked the door. It was like, not in my head, but, you know, like, evidently I was dreaming all this. And I had went to the door, and I answered the door, and some dude was at the door, and he just walked right in. And he had a black hat on, and he had, like, an all-black, like almost like an Armani suit. It was, like, really, really nice. Like, and, like, for some reason, I couldn't see his face. It looked like his face was, like, just not, like, blacked out, but, like, really shaded. Like, the hat covered his face. The shadow of his hat covered his face, and I couldn't see the features of his face. It's like, I could see, like, eyes, a nose, and a mouth, but I couldn't make out any of it. And it was weird. And, like, he sat down on the couch, and he was like, come here. And I was like, weirded out. I was like, what are you doing in my house? He was like, just come here. So I went over there, and I sat down, and I'm weirded out about all this. And again, I'm thinking this is real. It's like lucid dreaming, like a motherfucker. Like, I sat down next to him, and he was like, so I'm going to be honest with you. I want your kid. I was like, what? No, you can't have my kid. He was like, okay, but I'll leave you alone if you just give me your kid. And I'm like, no, you can't have my kid. Get the fuck out of my house. And he's like, okay, well, just know I'm never going to leave you alone unless you give me your kid. And, like, just kept saying, your kid, like, never using, like, his or her name, you know. And it was really, really weird because I was really, really weirded out by this guy. But then all of a sudden, he, like, turned into, like, a puff of black smoke and just left. And I was like, at this point, I was like, okay, this shit can't be real. Then I wake up in the morning, I was like, oh, it was clearly a dream. And then when I told Megan about it, like, she was all weirded out about it too. She was like, you never went and answered the door. I was like, yeah, I did. I went and I answered the door, and, like, she was like, no, you even told me that there was nobody there. I was like, obviously I just went in and laid on the couch and fell asleep, but, you know, like, I thought I answered the door. Like, again, lucid dreaming. I thought this was all real. So.
Yeah, so there were so many things. I mean, we have to make several videos to be able to tell you guys everything that happened, all of the paranormal events that occurred, because there's just so many. And luckily, I haven't experienced anything paranormal.
Right after that was
in the past couple of years.
apartment.
I don't think I've experienced anything paranormal in the past couple of years, but all of this stuff kept happening, and it didn't stop happening for a very long time. And there's no telling if it'll start happening again. Hopefully, it won't. Hopefully talking about it won't make it happen again. But
I don't think it's going to happen again. I think we're done with that because like all the negativity has left us. You know,
we're definitely working on being more positive. You know, but that's a little hard to do when you've got crazy neighbors. Which, guys, I will have videos on crazy neighbors coming up soon, also. So you know, keep an eye out for those. But yeah, definitely. There was so many crazy things that happened. I remember even rolling over one night, and actually before that happened, I felt I looked. I was asleep, and I looked down, or I kind of opened my eyes just a little bit, and I remember seeing a hand, just a black hand. Just I could see it was a hand going like this across my neck, and I remember I said, "What do you want?" And it wouldn't answer me. And then I said, "Just leave my baby alone." He says, "I don't want your effing baby." And then I rolled over to wake Freak up and tell him what's going on. Well, the second I rolled over, his eyes are just bloodshot and they are wide, and he's just staring. Freak is just staring at me. He would not blink. He would not move. I tried slapping him across the face a little bit. I went across his eyes with my hand, trying to wake him up, and he would not wake up from this trance that he was in. And this was right after I saw this thing going across my neck. So, I mean, there were so many crazy things that happened, and I definitely would.
I don't remember any of that, by the way. Like the next morning, she was like terrified of me. I'm like, what's going on? And she told me that. I was like, I was asleep all night. I don't remember any of that. And it's really weird, and it does sound insane, but like, and you would have to experience something like this in order to get it. Like if you've never experienced anything like this in your life, like you wouldn't get it. And I'm like I said, we're agnostic. Like we don't like really conform. We don't really know. We don't really know. Like, but I know Albert Einstein said energy can never be destroyed; it can only be displaced. Mm-hmm. And I know that I've listened to a lot of like TED Talks where and a lot of like scientific theories about like demons and evil energy in the world that like this energy exists for a reason, and when the energy leaves your body, it obviously has to go somewhere. And I feel like some of that came from like really evil, negative people, and they just festered and they became these like dark entities like we see in the world. Yeah. And like demonic parasites who feed off negativity is obviously somebody who has been addicted to, like performing these like super negative and evil things. And it's just, that's what they become after that energy left their body. It just kind of like stayed and became something completely different. Because like even some cameras can catch like energy leaving your body after you die. I mean, where does that go? A lot of people think it goes back into the universe, and creates like a tree, a blade of grass, a flower, a puppy, what have you. But obviously, it can't all be good. There has to be the good with the bad. So as well as there's like good light energy, there's also like dark negative energy in the world. And it impacts some people differently, like how when you're around somebody who's super negative, you can't stand to be around that person, and you just want to go. But when you go, you feel negative yourself. It's obviously it affected you in a bad way. But dealing with all that shit was just a nightmare and a half, and I felt like most of it was my fault because I was harboring this. Buddha said, harboring hatred and anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So in turn, I was really hurting myself, but I was hurting my family as well because I was holding on to this stuff. This thing was attracted to me somehow. Like I felt like it was more me, like it was attracted to me, and it was just affecting everybody around us. Because even my son at the time was having night terrors, waking up screaming, couldn't sleep for days. Like, and we were in the apartment. Like we went to a different apartment.
Yeah, we eventually moved out of the 1-bedroom apartment and got a 2-bedroom apartment. That was because we had our son, and they told us we couldn't stay in the 1-bedroom anymore because it was too small. And they have apartments and stuff like that, and rental houses, they have rules as to how many people you can have. And so we eventually moved to a 2-bedroom apartment in a different apartment complex because we didn't want to stay in that complex anymore for reasons I don't even want to get into. I mean, the buildings were just falling apart, and there were just too many problems. So we moved out, moved into a 2-bedroom in a different complex, and the activity continued. But it only happened every once in a while. It didn't happen all the time. I remember several instances my son told me, Mommy, there's a ghost in my room. Mommy, there's a little boy in my room. And honestly, like, once again, even after everything we had been through, I just tried to ignore it. I had a feeling he was telling the truth, but I just tried to ignore it and, sweep it up under the rug. And things just kept happening. Things just began happening. And for a while, my mom actually moved in with us. And then after she moved out, things got worse as far as the activity goes. I'm not really sure why that happened. But there was one night I was actually cleaning my bathroom mirror, and there's a long hallway, our bedroom, and then here's the hallway bathroom, and right by the hallway bathroom was my son's bedroom, the entry to my son's bedroom. Well, right at the entry to my son's bedroom, after I was cleaning the bathroom mirror, I turned around, and there was a boy, just like my son had described, saying, Mom, there's a boy in my room. He, was just like a cloud, puffy, like just white smoke looking. But he had jeans on and a white t-shirt. And the bluest eyes I've ever seen. Bluer than Freak's eyes. Okay? Super blue eyes. And he was just staring at me, like a blank stare. And I just stared back at him. I made eye contact with him. But I didn't say anything because something kept telling me, do not communicate, do not communicate, do not communicate. So I just didn't communicate with him. I tried to not be scared. I walked down the hallway to the living room, turned back around, and he was gone. But from then on, after that point, things just got worse. And Freak's attitude towards me started changing. He acted like he hated me at times. Things just, took a turn for the worse.
Probably the worst point in time in our lives, dealing with all that, and also money problems on top of that. It was a nightmare. It was just, nothing was fun about it. Barely any good memories. There were some, like birthdays and like fun stuff we went out and did, but as far as like our home life, like being at home, it was not good.
Exactly. Well, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. I've got so many more stories to tell you guys, and I'm brand new to this YouTube thing, so just bear with me and let me get used to being on camera. But I love you guys, and like and subscribe, and if you enjoyed this video, hit that bell button, and we will be back. Peace.